be able to bear with us. We realized that we didn't want to have a conflict of your audience with our esteemed members of the military. This is why we gave them precedence. This is the last time we are doing it. Of course, when we form the government, they will also be following us. But I want to appreciate your indulgence, and I want to thank you for coming. Colleagues who are here present from the civics, from the diplomatic corps, we appreciate you. Our statement is a statement that is focusing on the ballot scandal that we have in this country, particularly after we have unearthed what we perceive to be a consistent pattern of having commissions and omissions that are determined to render our election discredited and illegitimate. So I'll read the statement, which is very unusual and uncharacteristic of me, but I'll do that because it's very important for this statement to be understood. It's going to be a bit longish, but I'll try to truncate it so that it suits your issues. Fellow Zimbabweans, I come to you to express my gratitude for the tremendous support, solidarity, and kindness that you have shown to the cause, to us, particularly the MDC Alliance, and myself in particular as Nelson Chamisa, your presidential candidate, my esteemed colleagues here present and some who are still coming, members in the MDC Alliance. I cannot thank you enough, particularly the people of Zimbabwe, for the inspiring courage, bravery, and commitment that we have demonstrated in the last few months as we prepare for this forthcoming election. We've gone far and wide. We've done a total of 49 rallies across the whole country. No other candidate has done that similar number of rallies. Mr. Mnangagwa can't because of old age, and we definitely feel that we are ahead in terms of the time because nobody's going to catch that kind of speed and frequency of rallies. It is within that context that we feel that as we have moved around, the spirit of freedom abounds across the land. And I'm humbled to be walking hand in hand with all the people of Zimbabwe to our soon-to-come inevitable final victory. I also want to take this opportunity to publicly welcome our guests, the regional international observers, who have come from around the world to be a witness to our election on the 30th of July, this 2018. They are here because they know that this is a historic election. It is not an event, but it is a process, and it will not end in a single day. It is a process that begins well before the polling day and does continue after the polling day, and until at least we have a transfer of power. And this is why within that context we are also emphasizing that we need to agree on a transfer of power matrix, a handover, takeover, because it's clear that power is going to shift hands, and it will shift hands in our direction. So we need to start also to work in the context of a mechanism. In Ghana, they have what they call the Government Transitional Act. But in our own situation, there's a vacuum. We do not have a legislative framework. We need to work on that in the context of our historical circumstances. Yes, it is important for us to also understand that we must thank our international observers, particularly when they enjoy the usual traditional hospitality of the people of Zimbabwe. Our country is a great country. Our people are a kind people, very generous. You must feel at home. They will not harm you. They will embrace you. They will not harass you. They will not in any way persecute you. They are good people. So as you travel around the country, please take time to enjoy the gifts of nature that God the Almighty has bestowed on this wonderful country. It is a great country. It is going to be greater after the elections. Fellow Zimbabweans, the few months that we have been going around the country have been truly phenomenal. We've connected with the rest of the country. As the MDC family, we rose from the depths of mourning and despair when in February we lost our icon, the father of democracy, the doyen of good governance, the hero of heroes, Dr. Richard Morgan Tsvangirai. And of course, we have started to dream and believe once again. His funeral, which was well covered, came as a seed to the renewal of the spirit of the struggle that he guided with impeccable and stoic courageous leadership. As I traverse the country, I see great hope and deep passion in the eyes of the people I meet the young and the old, the men and the women, the boys and the girls, whose future is at stake in this election. We are a nation of a kind and generous people with great courage, big hearts, resilience and creativity. These qualities have seen us through very difficult circumstances, tough times, but we bank on these important attributes as we see ourselves through this historic moment. There can be no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, fellow countrymen, that we stand at the important juncture in the history of our country. We can choose to be progressive, taking the path that is guided by intergenerational consensus, and of course look forward, not look backwards, but continue with the new politics, not old politics, the new economics, not the old economics, that has left our country broken, divided, and impoverished. We are supposed to go beyond this, and to be able to go beyond this, the choice is ours. And we need to make sure that we choose the correct path. This country, which attained its independence through the blood of revered and courageous brave men and women who fought, and some died even before they exercised their right to vote, wanted one man, one vote, the sovereign will of the people. It is for this reason that I'm not going to betray the members who have fallen, the heroes who have fallen, who wanted to see this country on the path to a legitimate election at all material times. Our forefathers, foremothers, who staged a crusade for the liberation of all African countries, and in particular our country, built this foundation on the credit of the legacy and an epic emboldenment of institutions that are important, particularly the AU and SADC, that are very important as we go forward in terms of cultivating and fertilizing our good governance narrative and also effective democracy. The challenges that we face as Zimbabwe, ladies and gentlemen, are far bigger than partisan politics, are far bigger than party politics, including even my own party, which I lead. We are a divided nation, we are a broken people. We need to be together in order for us to realize the national vision that is more important in terms of the viability of this nation. This is why it is clear that we are ready for the moment and we are ready to move forward. But however, in these circumstances, it is regrettable to know that there are certain forces that are inimical to progress and reform and are standing in the way of the people of Zimbabwe to realize happiness. This is not new, but it cannot be allowed to defeat the will of our people. An inclusive, free, and fair election is important. It is the only route to legitimacy. It is the only map out of this morass. It is the only gateway to our success as a country. Without legitimacy and stability, there can never be economic recovery, let alone progress in this country. But, as I already said, certain forces are threatening the attainment of that legitimacy. And of course, my brother E.D. Mnangagwa's hands are not clean. This he has to confront as a challenge that he fails. The fulcrum of a free and fair, credible election is the referee. You are currently watching the World Cup. It's clear that even in a World Cup, you obviously have to have an independent referee. Now, in the context of our elections, it's important for ZEC to be a credible referee. They have not shown so. They are not willing to even show the capacity that they are credible. Yes, to my brother Mnangagwa, even in a boxing ring, people hug and, of course, share smiles before a fight. That is how it should be. That is how we should move. But, of course, I've given him and extended an olive branch to him. I've given him a hug. He has shrugged it off. He has not shown any willingness and capacity to unite this nation. I'm ready as a nation builder. He has shown himself to be the opposite of what I stand for and the attributes that I carry. It is in that context that the referee, who must not only be free and also fair, but must be seen to be fair, has to show that they have credentials of seriousness to conduct a clear, free, and fair election as a referee. The practice of democracy that our citizens afford is a practice that leaders are elected by those whom they lead. Over the past 2 decades, we've gone through a series of disputed elections that have plunged this country into persistent crisis of legitimacy. Our people are yearning for a fresh start, a new beginning, and a new renewed hope, a faith that they have in the potential of their country, with vast resources great resources, 60 minerals, including our 61st mineral, which is the people of Zimbabwe. A great jewel indeed. We have come a long way, and we are here today. The current government, which took over from Mr. Mugabe, the former president of this country, on the 18th of November in 2017, did so on the pretext that they are ensuring a free, fair, and election. And they've said that Zimbabwe is open for business. And our issue is, if we are open for business, why can't we be open for a transparent, free, and fair election? Why can't we be open for the business of elections? Why can't we be open for a clear business of an open and transparent ballot printing that we are calling for? We are obviously currently witnessing a regime that simply talks but not intend to hold election. They are bold in declarations, bold in word, but not in deed. Very strong in terms of talk, but not in their walk. And for that reason, we've said in terms of the constitution of this country, in section 156, the conduct of elections and referendums have to be transparent. And whatever method is used, they are supposed to be simple, accurate, verifiable, and secure as well as transparent. It is important that our supreme law envisages the verifiability, security, and transparency of the election. No one can therefore deny Zimbabweans, including the candidates, this entrenched fundamental right. Because our history is manipulated elections in Zimbabwe, the crisis of credible elections, which has been born out of mistrust between government and the people of Zimbabwe. The ZEC board is constantly charged with administration of elections, and it has shown that it is either incapable or unwilling to provide Zimbabweans with a verifiable, secure, transparent election as required by the law and international standards governing democratic elections. There has been an insensitive disregard for the principles of transparency. Among other very pertinent issues that we are raising, number one, there has been a refusal to provide stakeholders with proper voters' roll, with pictures. The voters' roll is very clear in terms of the law. The voter is not supposed to be secret. What is supposed to be secret is the vote. But Chigumba doesn't seem to read the law properly. That's why she's saying, no, we can't release the photographs. But the voter is not secret. What is secret is the vote. And we need to educate her in that regard. Number two, ZEC has refused parties an opportunity to observe the printing of the ballot papers and proceeded to print without the knowledge of the stakeholders. We are saying this advisedly and informed by our own intelligence sources that what they did in 2013 was to manipulate the ballot so that they use a ballot that has certain consequences in terms of manipulating the will of the people. At an appropriate time, I'm going to demonstrate to the nation, perhaps not today, how they did it, because I have impeccable sources in government, senior sources, who actually revealed certain information. And I'm going to engage President Mnangagwa, as I articulate, so that I give him the information, so that there is no doubt as to the skullduggery and shenanigans that they've been undertaking in manipulating the will of the people. Number three, ZEC has not put in place mechanisms for joint storage and collective storage of the printed ballots until they get into the secure hand of the one who is going to vote. ZEC has also failed to put in place mechanisms for the distribution, because we have to have the paper trail of the sensitive material, the ink, and all other such material related to balloting, so that we have confidence in the process in line with the constitution of this country. ZEC has allowed state media to run a smear campaign against opposition candidates without any reprimand. ZEC has allowed people in the rural areas to be abused, terrorized. Their serial numbers being requested and demanded. ZEC has said nothing. President Mnangagwa said nothing. In fact, President Mnangagwa has even gone ahead to encourage his candidates to violate the rights of citizens, particularly in the rural areas, by abusing traditional leaders, by also abusing other state institutions for purposes of an election. Our constitution is very clear in terms of section 155 that a candidate must have reasonable access to material information necessary to participate effectively. Section 156 makes it clear that ZEC must ensure that whatever method is used, it must be simple, secure, verifiable, and transparent. That has not been the case. Our constitution is even further clear that we are not demanding new rights and new laws. We are simply demanding the existing laws and rights that have been given full effect. This is not too much to ask. ZEC should start working hard to satisfy the contestants, the candidates, myself, instead of ridiculing them by casting aspersions and suggesting that demands are trivial. Yes, Judge Gumba said she would want an earthquake. I'm sure we'll have one, so that we are able to deal with the issues that we are raising. It is constitutional for us, for any citizen, and for us as candidates, to request information in terms of Section 62, subsection 1, together with Section 67 in terms of our political rights. So it is the law. If it is about the law, we are ready with her on the law. She must not implement the law selectively and subjectively. She seems to read the law with a squint eye or with some tinted glasses. She must read the law appropriately. And we are able to encourage her and help her if she has problems with reading and interpreting the law. Our great concern, fellow countrymen, is that over the years, we've had problems with the voters' roll, and we still have the problem with the voters' roll. And this is why, of late, we've seen out of pressure, they've released a piecemeal voters' roll, a half-baked voters' roll, without the pictures. When we push ZEC, it is not because we are difficult, we are not stubborn. We want a happy country, we want a prosperous country. In fact, we love our country, but there has to be a semblance of standards, norms, and values that are respected. We remind you that only 5 years ago, ZEC utterly refused to provide my predecessor, the icon of this struggle, Dr. Richard Morgan Tsvangirai, with a voters' roll. Up to now, we don't have that voters' roll, the 2013 voters' roll. This time, we are not repeating the mistakes of 2013. We will not go into an election that has its own machinations. We would rather be in a grave or be in a prison cell or a jail than to be in a ballot box, which is a jail, but disguised as a salvation box. We will not do that, and we will not allow that. But even if we are to go ahead, ZEC has fallen far short of what is supposed to be done in terms of the voters' roll. And I said from the beginning that please bear with me because I'm almost completing, but I wanted to go through this issue so that it's important. In terms of our view, the voters' roll that has been released is not fit for purpose. It is not legally compliant. It cannot be credibly used to record the conduct of the voting process. It cannot be used to be able to forensically audit the process on our own. They refuse to do an independent audit, but we can do it. We do not have evidence of whether or not this is going to be the final roll. They may even change the roll at midnight, nocturnally, Nicodemously. We must be able to deal with that. It is this document that we want to see in good order, in verifiable order. And of course, instead of undertaking to correct the numerous inconsistencies and errors in the voters' roll, ZEC has chosen to adopt a very arrogant high road, which is dangerous, which demonstrates that they take Zimbabweans for granted. But of course, we are their guests if they choose to take that high road. We are also ready. Instead of promising to correct the problems in the voters' roll before the election, the ZEC chairperson and ZEC choose to downplay those anomalies as if it is the only necessary thing to correct them. Now, I must emphasize that we have not gotten there yet, but we are almost being tempted and being driven into beginning to say that the ZEC chairperson and the ZEC commissioners are incapable of leading this election. And under those circumstances, we are going to be tempted to ask SADC and AU to come and take over the process so that it's an independent process by an independent and impartial referee. It's within our political rights, it's within our constitution. Because if ZEC is choosing to be ZANU, then it means that we do not have an independent electoral commission. There must be a distinction between ZANU and ZEC. The reason why Mnangagwa is not complaining about this election is because he is part of the people who are plotting and planning the layout of the ballot, as has already been articulated by my team. That is what they are doing. He knows where it is being secretly printed. All of us don't know. He knows the number of ballots that have been printed. We all do not know as candidates, and that cannot be allowed. And ZEC is obviously choosing to throw away the whistle and join the other team, or even go out of the stadium, allow the other team to be the referee. We cannot allow that. That must be stopped. You understand this nomenclature because you are watching the World Cup. Instead of undertaking to deal with these issues, we have raised critical red lines. The issue which is a red line and a deal breaker is the issue of the ballot paper. We will not go into an election with a ballot paper that is not agreed upon. Not to say that we will not participate in an election, but there will be no election. There can't be an election where there is no agreed ballot paper. Hakuna anogerwa asipo This is not Mnangagwa's private limited. It is not Chiwenga's private limited. It's not a Chamisa private limited. It is a people's country with a private limited on the people. They are the ones with the title deeds of this country. And we will not allow any leader to think that they are above the people. There is no ruler. We have leaders. And they must be accountable to the led. And this is why we are going to be ready to lead the people. Even if it means to walk on the seas, or in the oceans, or on the mountains, or even in the caves. We are ready to make sure that we provide that leadership until we have a free and fair election. And we'll have an election on the 30th of July, but with a ballot that is agreed upon. Not in a ballot that is printed in aisles or in back rooms or in shacks or in party rooms or ZANU-PF headquarters or at Harvest House. It must be agreed upon, and we will not accept. Because this is not a ZANU-PF primary. It is a national election. We are part of it. They can't have it alone. We have to work together. It takes two to tango. They can't do it alone. This is our country. It is the people's country, and we will lead it. And of course, Mr. Mnangagwa must also be ready to be a potential leader of the opposition very soon, once we have had that election. In terms of another critical concern, I've already told you, we cannot just have the box ticking, which is tokenism, that seeks to hoodwink the people of Zimbabwe. We cannot be cheated, and we will not be cheated. And this is the reason why we have embarked on a very detailed multi-stakeholder process to engage a lot of the international community. I'll go to the way forward so that I don't waste a lot of your time. Of course, we're going to release our statement, which is quite lengthy and detailed. But in terms of the clear way forward, we are simply saying that as far as we are concerned, this 2018 election cannot afford to be yet another disputed election, because that will be dashed hopes and lost hope for democracy, but also for economic stability. Our people are sick and tired, and they cannot take it anymore. I was happy to hear that the soldiers are saying they will respect the constitution of this country, and let it be the walk, not just the talk. That would be good. We want the respecting of the constitution of Zimbabwe in letter and in spirit. What is clear, ladies and gentlemen, fellow countrymen, is that we have an election process that is in a process stalemate, arising out of the ballot scandal and the voters' rolls and inadequacies and omissions. This has culminated in an election crisis, which we are now declaring because we are not agreed on the process. We are part of those people who are supposed to participate in that process. This election will win, and there's going to be an election in Zimbabwe and we'll win it. But it has to be done with an agreed ballot paper. Nothing less, nothing more. We are not here to cause problems. We are here to have a credible election so that every citizen has the right to articulate their will. So as a way forward, we have a 6-point program, like 7, on what should be done to go forward. First, there has to be the unilateral withdrawal of the unilateral and illegitimate, illegal, ongoing printing sham ballot paper. That must be stopped immediately. I don't understand how they ended up having 1 up to 14, with Mnangagwa then being the first one on the other column. It has to be scientific. There must be an explanation to the candidates. You can't choose where Mnangagwa must be placed in terms of the alphabet. We will not allow that. It will not happen. Yes, he's a crocodile, but they are also kings of the jungle. We are not talking about the seas here. Number 2, an inclusive, transparent process has to be done in terms of designing, printing, and solving the storage, distribution of the ballot paper, agreed upon by all stakeholders, ourselves included, and other such political parties, 20 so have to be there, including Mnangagwa. The fact that Mnangagwa is also not complaining or crying with us, it shows that the crocodile is indeed shedding crocodile tears. But we do not want crocodile tears. We want real tears, human tears, on these issues, so that we are able to build our nation together and be able to come together as a people. There must be an emergency meeting, which is the 3rd one, with ZEC, to resolve all these urgent issues. If they are not resolved, we have our alternatives, and we will articulate them in due course. Number 4, there has to be an urgent meeting with President Mnangagwa. In fact, I met his chief advisor this morning. I wrote to him again, after I wrote to him in the first place, and he decided to splash my letter childishly and immaturely in the newspaper, in the Herald. But of course, that doesn't worry me. When you are the big guy in the room, you also have to put up with what kids do. So it's not a problem. I understand it. We have to embark on a nationwide stakeholder consultation to correct the path in resolving this impasse. Of course, we are going to go far and wide. We are ready to engage Zimbabweans. Zimbabweans have to tell us, you have to tell us what you want for this country. Under these circumstances, you want us to be part of this sham. If you don't want us to be part of this sham, what do we do? This is your power. Take it. And so that we provide solutions and answers. We are going to dispatch special envoys of our principals in the alliance. Professor Ngwe, Advocate Biti, Sakwinje, Guchutu, Ngaruvume, and Mtambara, Brigadier, to go into the region together with other senior leaders from the MDC, to go and engage the region. We are writing to them special messages on the crisis we currently have, and that they shepherded a process which they then could not see to its logical conclusion. We are now having an aborted transition, an arrested transition in the country on account of our colleagues who are refusing to play according to the rules. We are also going to brief all international observers on this current logjam, including our diplomats in this country. Of course, I have already briefed some of them, including some very senior diplomats in the country. So we therefore are calling upon SADC and the AU to immediately, including the international community, the United Nations included, to intervene and save the collapsing process and abet the imminent legitimate crisis. We will not allow Mr. Mnangagwa and his friends to get away with murder literally or metaphorically. We will have a proper election in this country, and we are ready for any consequence, until we have a free and fair election in Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. I will now ask for the questions from you in terms of clarification on this, and